Hi, and welcome to this recorded short break scheme webinar. Before we go any further into the session, we'll just introduce ourselves so that you know who's presenting today. I'm Stuart, Strategic Director of WPCC, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, my name's Kai and I am the Head of Families and Children's Commissioning at Wiltshire Council.
The slides within this recording are designed to give some background and context to help you make an informed contribution to the future of Wiltshire's short break scheme. We're offering this opportunity as a recorded webinar to enable people to participate at times that suit them best. Please do not feel that you have to complete the whole session in one go. You can approach it in chunks by following as much or as little as you wish to at a time, pausing as you go and coming back to it when it's convenient to do so. Within this session, you'll see some slides that give some information and other slides that are interactive and enable you to submit your thoughts and suggestions. In order to respond to questions as we go, you will need to log on to Menti on another device or swap screens on the device that you're currently using when we get to the questions. We'll pause when we get to the questions slides to give you time to respond as we go. You can pause the session at any time to give yourself more time before you move on. The other option is to watch and listen to this session without pausing and then respond to the questions in the Menti afterwards. To be able to respond to the questions via Menti, you will first need to log in. Before we move on, please now log into Menti by typing menti, MENTI.com in your address bar and then enter the code which is displayed at the top of the screen in front of you. We'll give you a few moments to do that. Okay, let's move on. In partnership with Wiltshire Council Commissioners, the WPCC facilitated several face-to-face sessions around Wiltshire in June this year. We're keen for as many parent carers as possible to have the opportunity to have a voice in helping to shape the Wiltshire short break scheme and what it may look like in the future. This recorded webinar is designed to offer another way for people to engage and contribute. Before we look at the themes that have come from our conversations with people at the sessions that we've held so far, here's a reminder about why it's so important for you to have your say now. Wiltshire Council is currently looking at recommissioning the short break scheme from 2026. Financial pressures and increasing demand for the scheme could mean that the offer for children and young people with SEND could look very different in the future. This could bring opportunities for some children and young people who are not currently eligible for the scheme, but it could also mean significant changes for many who've been used to the scheme in its current format for many years.
There are some challenges for the short break scheme, as noted on the slide. EHCPs are increasing. The number of EHCPs in Wiltshire are continuing to go up. This has had a knock-on effect on the short break scheme, as more and more children and young people become eligible due to this increase in the number of EHCPs. The impact on the payment and combo amount over the years, due to the ever-increasing numbers of eligibility, the payment has reduced. This has been necessary to ensure that all eligible children and young people who choose this option are able to access it within the budget available. We've seen, for example, that payment amount has decreased over the years from £460 per eligible child or young person to the current rate of £240. If nothing is done, this amount will continue to fall. Eligible numbers continue to increase. The total number of eligible children and young people continues to grow each year, and the budget is not able to keep pace with that demand. At the current rate of growth, and if nothing changes in terms of how the scheme looks, it is estimated that there will be at least 5,597 eligible children at the start of 2030. Is the current short break scheme fair? There are currently 16,325 children and young people with identified SEND needs in Wiltshire. Every child and young person in Wiltshire should benefit from some level of support, but at present, fewer than 20% of that number are able to access the short break scheme. Building on feedback from conversations with parents and carers in September and October 2024, we have drafted a proposed model for a possible future for short breaks in Wiltshire. This is only a proposed model designed to promote discussion. Nothing is confirmed at this moment in time. Parent carers are being asked what they think about a short break scheme that has 4 elements as shown in the diagram on the scheme that children and young people may or may not be able to access according to their needs. Universal support could be an element of the scheme that most children and young people would be able to access. This element would support access to a range of activities and opportunities across Wiltshire within local communities such as leisure centres. Providers would not be expected to be specialist providers, but would be able to access SEND training support and some funding towards things like equipment to improve accessibility and inclusion. Targeted support framework would seek to develop an offer delivered by specialist providers offering taster sessions and group activities in local communities. Commissioned activity schemes would be for children and young people who are unable to access community-based activities, whether that is leisure centres within our universal support offer or targeted support framework, perhaps because there is a barrier to them being able to attend activity clubs. Direct payments would be similar to the payment option in the current short break scheme. It is suggested that this option is limited to a smaller number of children and young people with very specific needs, who perhaps cannot access any of the other options for whatever reason. At this point, we'd be interested to hear your thoughts about these proposals. So, what do you think about the proposals? Are there any opportunities or benefits? Are there any challenges or risks?
So we're going to give you a couple of minutes to use the Menti to submit any ideas and thoughts that you have about these proposals.
Who should the scheme be for? The majority of people told us at the sessions that they thought the current age range of 6 to 18 is about right. Many people said that there needs to be a different offer for young people beyond 18 as they move towards adulthood and independence. Some people also said that young people aged over 13 wanted more mature, engaging options, while others highlighted that some young people operate many years below their chronological age.
So again, using the options on Menti, we'd like to invite you to type in some suggestions about who the eligible age range for the scheme could or should be in the future. Again, we'll give you some minutes to do that for us. Eligibility for the Wiltshire Short Break Scheme is currently determined by the child or young person's educational provision and or the requirement of an EHCP at banding upper 1 or above. We need to recognise that the number of EHCPs continues to increase, and the potential future change in provision for children with SEND that may not rely so heavily on EHCPs may be the landscape in the future. So we're asking the question, is the current eligibility criteria the right eligibility criteria? Some parent carers have suggested that a future scheme may need tiered options based on individual children and young people's needs. Other parent carers suggested that parent carers could apply for the scheme via an app that identified whether children and young people met a threshold of need according to a published definition that was not based on education or EHCPs. If children and young people met the defined threshold, they would be able to access the specialist clubs or direct payment options proposed within the model that we previously looked at. Other children and young people would still be able to access an element of the scheme offer, but that would be as a universal or targeted offer, again, as Kai described in a few slides ago. Other people suggested that the scheme could focus on the family rather than individual children. So, for example, if a family had more than one child or young person with SEND, they would receive an offer for the family, not an offer for each individual child or young person. Some people were keen on something being available to parent carers while their children attended activity or clubs, to help them with connect with other parent carers. So again, using Menti, if you could take a few moments and tell us who you think should be eligible for the scheme, again, reflecting on some of the information that we've already shared through previous slides, we'd be really grateful. You may want to pause the slides at this point to give you more time to think about who should be eligible for the scheme and submit your answers. We're going to move on to the next slide. So the next question we want you to think about is, how do we keep the short break scheme simple in terms of the application process? The beauty of the current scheme is that it is very admin light, and that means that most of the current short breaks budget goes on the activities, experiences and payments for children and young people, rather than an administrative process. So one of the questions we'd like you to think about is, how do we decide or confirm eligibility of children and young people without creating complex and expensive admin processes? Could you suggest a low admin heavy method or simple system to check eligibility and process applications that wouldn't overburden families? Through the face-to-face sessions that we've held, some people suggested that we need to keep it as it is. That's to say EHCPs, but perhaps only for those with a higher banding than within the current scheme, with some people suggesting that that level should be at level 3 banding or above. Some others suggested that the scheme should only be for those with upper level 2 banding or above. Others suggested referral from a professional who knows the child or young person well. And some people suggested that there should be more checks on how people use the money, or publish stricter guidelines about what the money can and can't be used for. There were also some suggestions about giving passes for theme parks, or discounted travel on trains instead of receiving payments. What do you think? We'd love to hear your suggestions. So again, please take a moment to reflect on that And then we'd really welcome any thoughts that you have via the Menti. We'll give you a couple of moments before we move on to the next slide, but again, you might want to pause to give yourself more time before you move on in the presentation.
Okay, we're now going to move on to the final question we have for you today, and that is with regards to the name of the short break scheme. The term short breaks is confusing to many and meaningless to others. Some people confuse the term short breaks with a short holiday or overnight respite, for example. There is an opportunity for us to collectively come up with a new name for this scheme in Wiltshire that has more meaning to children and young people with SEND and their families. Most people so far have said that they would like SEND to feature somewhere in the new name. Some people have said, don't use acronyms, whereas other people have suggested some creative acronyms. We've had a number of popular suggestions for the scheme so far. Below are the names that have come out as being popular with parents and carers so far. SEND Family Lifeline, Fun, Freedom and Understanding, I Belong, Belonging, Freedom to Discover, Lifeline for Fun, Opportunities to Connect, Smart Inclusion, Adventure, SEND Inclusive Activities, Wildflowers, Diverse and Inclusive Opportunities for young people with SEND, and there could be different wildflowers assigned to each club or activity. Open Doors, SEND Access, SEND Support Scheme, Break Time, Fun for Me, and Open Opportunities. We'd be really interested in your thoughts on these, and what we'd like you to do is to pick your top 3 from the options displayed on the screen. We'll now give you a moment to consider that. Okay, we've now come to the end of this presentation. So first, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of Wiltshire Council and on behalf of the Wiltshire Parent Carer Council for attending this session. As we said at the outset, no decisions have been made with regards to the future of short breaks at this time, and it is essential that your voice is heard as part of the co-production design of the new short break scheme. There will be further opportunities to learn more about the proposals as we move forward, and thanks again for joining us today.